A Panamanian ship.
This way, sir!
Frank, when Nordberg said, "I love you," he was telling you the name of the ship.
Wait!
You get down to the street, and I'll take the roof.
Ah! Assassin!
I realize that now.
Hey there folks, how you doing today? Hope all is going well for you. Please bear with any racket that you may hear in the background. There's life going on out there, folks. I hope you enjoyed that little introduction that we put together for you. Sorry, I'm not James Bond, but in all fairness, this is not a PPK. For starters, as I always like to show, this is a safe and empty weapon, empty magazine. While I've got a ton of primers and powder out here on the table, there is no ammunition available for this pistol here in our workspace, and we're going to keep it that way for safety's sake while we conduct the rest of this video. Now that being said, what is this? Well, this is a 1994 model Walther PPKs manufactured under license from Walther by Enter Arms in Virginia. Now some of you may be wondering what the difference between a PPK and a PPKs is, and in case you're one of the ones that are not aware of what the differences are, thanks to legislation passed under the Gun Control Act of 1968, there is a weird point system attributed to foreign manufactured non-sporting handguns that require certain specifications, and there's points allotted for the height and weight and breadth and depth and barrel length and you name it. If you want to look it up, I'll try to find a link to the requirements and put it down here. It's really quite dull, but basically the Walther PPK, like the James Bond gun, just didn't quite pass muster as far as the point system was concerned. So Walther did a little old switcheroo and they put a PP length grip on a PPK length slide and basically added a round of capacity and gave a little bit more substance so that they could get the weight up there to pass. And this pistol passed by, I think it was just 1 point. I could be wrong about that. I'm sure some of you are already banging away, but suffice it to say, that's where the PPKs came from. Now, while there are a couple of good videos out there that explain all of the specifications of the PPK and PPKs, I just kind of wanted to touch on the functionality aspect of it here today. This pistol belongs to a friend of mine, the same guy that had that Maverick 88 shotgun that we redid last month. He asked me if I wanted to take a look at it and show it here on the program, and I said, sure, I'd love to. Now, when he provided me the pistol, there was no ammunition there, and I figured not a big deal. I'm going to go over to Academy and pick up a box or two of different kinds of shells to shoot through it, and good Lord, they wanted $32 for a box of target ammo for a 380. I almost took it back to him right then and said, you know what, buddy, I'm sorry, but I just can't afford to shoot this thing. But before I did that, I got to thinking. I said, you know what, I've got a bunch of old gunpowder out there. I've got a bunch of old primers out there. Let me see if I can scrounge up some 380 brass. So I did all that, and then I dug through my collection of bullets that I had in my reloading room, and I found some 90 grain Hornady XTP hollow points. Now, I had originally purchased those 90 grain XTP hollow points for my Glock Model 42, which I parted ways with after I purchased my SIG P365, and I used the proceeds from selling that Glock 42 to purchase the GX4 that has been so popular here on this channel, so I think I made a good decision there. That being said, I had a few bullets left over for a 380, and I did not have a 380 to shoot them out of, so I went ahead and I loaded up a box of shells to take this out to the range and play with it. Now I'm going to share some chronograph data and I'm going to give you some vague information about the load on, but I'm not going to post specific load data because YouTube has a way of throwing my videos down the memory hole when I talk too much. So suffice it to say, the load that I selected came out of a book, and while there was a little bit greater than what I personally care to see for standard deviation with the loads that I made up for this test, there's a couple of caveats to that. For starters, any of you out there that are part of the reloading community are probably well aware by this point that primers are almost non-existent, gunpowder is twice the price it was 2 years ago, and if you can find it, you probably can't find exactly what you want. All that being said, I used an antique box of CCI small pistol primers. I used an antique can of IMR 700X, and I used those components to load the ammunition that we put together for this test. That being said, I was crossing my fingers hoping those old primers would even go off, let alone was I concerned about low standard deviation from one round to the next. What I can tell you is I was pleasantly surprised. Even though there was a little bit wider than what I would have liked to have seen in the standard deviation from high to low. So while some of you may consider it dry information, I'll go ahead and I'll put the chronograph portion in the video here. So as some of you saw there, the first round was only 803 feet per second, and the one that immediately followed it was 928. That's a deviation of 125 feet per second from one round to the next. That was the extreme high and the extreme low, with the rest of the rounds falling right in the middle of those two. I will tell you that the load data that I had worked up was supposed to be right around 900 feet per second. So it was a little lower than what I had originally hoped it would be. It was still within the acceptable range for a 380 auto. Of the 8 shots fired, the average velocity in feet per second was 853.5 feet per second. If you threw out that low and high round and just counted the other 6, the average velocity was 849.5 feet per second, a difference of only 4 feet per second. So I went ahead and did the muzzle energy calculations using the data from all 8 rounds. This 380 auto produced an anemic 145 foot-pounds of energy from the 3.3 inch barrel on this Walther. But then again, those are all just numbers. What do they really mean? One area of concern with the 380 auto and hollow points: do I have enough velocity to meet the expansion threshold for the bullet that I'm shooting? Well, we put that to practice. Now, while I don't recommend you do this, I filled a 5-gallon bucket with water, stretched a couple of layers of t-shirt over the top of it, and fired a round down into it. While the round did not have enough energy to penetrate the bottom of the bucket, it was stopped in the inch of sand that I found in the bottom, and as you can see here, had very acceptable expansion. Going back and weighing that bullet, we had nearly 100% weight retention. So while it's an anemic little round, the t-shirts that I stretched over the top of the bucket did not seem to impede the performance of the hollow point opening up at all. Aside from the swing and velocities we experienced, accuracy at 7 yards was very acceptable. So while our accuracy on paper was nothing special, if I would have done my part, the group would have looked more like those 5 rounds that were clustered up at the top and been pretty good. But then again, I don't really have any trigger time with this pistol, but let's see how I did once I had warmed up. Now that steel popper there is about the size of my fist. And again, we were shooting at it from 7 yards. And if I slowed down and did my part, we could get it most of the time. Something else to point out, my thumbs are a little bit cut up from the slide serrations on this pistol. They're sharp. I don't think this gun has a whole lot of rounds through it. Everything is nice and tight on it. About the only nitpick that I really had for this pistol was the grip panels, just regardless of how tight you tighten them down, and I certainly didn't want to break them. They had a little bit of slop in them, they moved around. So I put a temporary measure behind them, squeezed them down good, and now they don't move, and that really did improve the shooting experience. So how does this pistol stack up to something modern? Let's say the SIG P365. Well, this pistol, bone dry, weighed in at 22.9 ounces on my scale. My SIG P365 loaded with 11 rounds weighed in at 23.9 ounces, a gain of 1 ounce. So 8 rounds of 380 in a fairly heavy, clunky pistol that's got a lot of snag points on it probably would not be my first choice for a concealed carry pistol, but kind of like driving an old car, it's neat. It's a classic, and I think it should be appreciated for that. In this modern day and age, when a box of 380 literally costs twice what a box of 9mm cost, I don't see myself doing a lot of target practice with something like this. But if you ever found yourself in one of those situations where you needed to get all dolled up with a bow tie and a sport coat, I think a pistol like this is a lot classier than some of the polymer offerings on the market today. One thing that I thought was pretty cool about this one was when I was digging around in the box, I found the original accuracy target from 1994 that showed a very respectable 3-shot group at 15 meters from the factory. I also found the bill of sale that showed that this pistol went for $419 way back when. You probably couldn't pick one up for that price today. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. If you have one of these, or you've ever had the chance to shoot one, or maybe you've just always wanted to, leave a comment down below. Be sure to hit the like, consider subscribing, and help us to defeat the algorithm that suppresses content on this channel. So until next time, folks, take care. God bless. Here we go. Okay, take 2. Suffice it to say, folks, the PPKs is the pistol break of imported pistols. I might be way out in left field. Any of you out there that are part of the reloading committee, you have one of these, maybe you've always wanted to shoot one, maybe you think the Burst of Thunder is better, and in some aspects you might be right.